Welcome to the Embracing Race podcast. All episodes were recorded in advance, so don't be alarmed if the timeline seems a little bit cattywampus.
Welcome to another episode of Embracing Race Conversations with Truth and Intention. I am your host, Shawnee.
And I am your other host, Jessie. My pronouns are they, them. Shawnee's are she, her.
That's correct. Pronouns are important. Why are pronouns important, Jessie?
Why are pronouns important? Well, it makes it so that we don't just assume somebody's identity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And why would we not want to assume identity?
Because gender is fluid and you don't know somebody's gender just based on their appearance.
Exactly. This is a space where you can learn and grow and inquire. So we don't want to assume that everybody knows.
Your background looks different. Are you in a different part of your house?
No, I'm in the little corner of where all the magic happens.
Oh, you're usually like in a corner though.
Because yes, because, well, I can't be in the corner now with my new fabulous desk. It won't fit, so I had to go long ways.
Very good. You're gonna have to put your other like picture to the side of you.
I know, or like move my.
Oh, you could just move, yeah.
Yeah, then I'm like, there's a picture missing, so I gotta go. I'm gonna stay like this.
So you've been busy.
Oh my gosh! So I've been busy. It's so much to talk about. Where you want to go first? We'll go to Alaska first.
Wherever you want to start. You look like you just had a thought, and then I interrupted you.
No. I was just like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be a heavy show. But then I'm thinking, it's not gonna be heavy. It's us.
Yeah.
It's gonna be digestible.
Yeah.
So, for those that don't know, I recently took a job with the big church, capital C, with Presbyterian Mission Agency. So I'm not going to talk a lot about my job on this podcast because it's not a shameless plug there, but I do want to, and I want to be cognate. Is cognate?
No, I don't know how to pronounce it.
You want
to be conscious of the fact.
I want to be, and also, yes,
cognizant
of the fact that I have a brand that I've been building for many years, and there might be some intersectionality with Shawnee, the brand, the coach, Shawnee, the podcast host, Shawnee, the author, Shawnee, and those skill sets, were a very big plus in how I got to this job, but I don't, neither one, I'm not using either one to bolster the other, if that makes sense. And so I just want to I want to have clear boundaries.
Absolutely.
So having said that though, but I do want to talk about, because, one of the things, although in like 4 years, I'm not going to be able to say this because Jesse's going to be ordained and a teaching elder. But for the moment, I'm going to live in the now. We are still both ruling elders. And I have this affinity and this heart for ruling elders. I know what it's like to be kind of the leadership of your church, small church or what have you. And so, whenever we're thinking of what are we going to talk about, I'm always thinking of the regular person in the pew, right? I'm never thinking of the teaching elder, although teaching elders love us. Let's be clear. They shout us out every time from pulpits near and far, right?
Yes.
And they and I think they love us so much, Jesse, honestly, because that's what I think we embody what they hope for as in their leadership, right? Like someone that could come out of whatever, right? I was going to say come out of the dark. I was about to go Gloria Estefan. Coming out of the dark. Side note, do you know when she got in that car accident, it was like an hour from where I grew up?
No, I did not know.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So it was all on the news and everything. She was like 45 minutes. My mother was like, this is why I don't ride in this ice. This is why I'm not on the road during ice. And we praying for Gloria Stefan in the house. But yeah. So anyway, but yeah, you know, she wasn't even supposed to walk. And she came out 18 months later with that song. That song cranked. But anyway, having said that, people coming out of their shell and coming out, you know, when I joined my church, I was in a season of grief, right? And darkness.
Yeah.
Like I'll never really talk about it, but I used to go to faith hungover. Just trying to make it to Sunday, right? And I didn't need a 12-step program, but I was like, something was like, okay, Shawnee, you can't drink a bottle of wine every night. Not the whole bottle. I got a plan for you. So
party on.
I know a little something about grace and mercy. So, but yeah, so okay. But I went to Alaska, y'all. I went to Alaska because our denomination at last year's GA voted on
General Assembly where we all gathered together.
Yes. Yeah. Voted on a unanimously, which I'm thinking, because there was no discussion about it, it might have been in the consent agenda, which is fine.
Yeah.
Because I just don't remember it being a conversation, which is fine. Again, which is fine. Right. But we voted unanimously to offer an apology for the racist closure of Memorial Church, which was a growing multi-ethnic congregation of indigenous natives of Alaska and white people, all worshiping together in perfect harmony, under the leadership of Reverend Dr. Walter Soboleff. He was the first indigenous person to be ordained in the Presbyterian Church. And one of the things that was so unique about him is that in the 40s, he brought a lot of indigenous people to Christ just by sharing his sermons on the radio at the time in their native language. Right? Yeah. And so, and so the church grew for over 25 years. And then all of a sudden one day, a white church moved into the neighborhood, didn't really want to interact. They were like around the corner. It was ridiculous. This church was around the corner, didn't want to have any dealings with them, per se. Didn't really do, I don't want to say they didn't actively, let me rephrase that. They didn't actively not want to have dealings, but they didn't do anything to be hospitable, right? Mm-hmm. The mission of the then Alaska Presbytery said, we're going to stop funding you, right? They were being underwritten in a lot of ways by a mission budget, which most churches are. It looks different today, but anyway. And as a result of that decrease in funding, they were forced to close. And at the same time, so you would think, oh, everybody is going to get funding cut. No, because they actually gave the white church $200,000 of a no interest free loan to build a new church, to build a new building for a congregation that was not even growing. Wow. And then 10 years later, this congregation again is not growing and decides to form a new church with a United Methodist congregation. And still, even in bringing on a whole new denomination, never reached out to Reverend Sobolev. Never asked him could he serve at their church. Just stayed in silence and reaped the benefits of the racist closure.
Yeah.
And so what we did 2 weeks ago is that a delegation, and it was very low key. And I want to just highlight and lift up how low key it was. Like the big church did not make this big deal about us going to apologize and everything, because it wasn't centered around us. And I appreciate that, because I think a lot of times we can whitewash a thing.
Yeah.
So in the worst way, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, even the Tinklet culture was incorporated in the worship service, even in the apology. How, you go to your tribe leader and you say, I have harmed someone within your tribe. I wish to apologize. Like, all that was done in honoring and acknowledging their culture, the culture of the indigenous Tinklet tribe. And so I reported on that, and it was exciting. And the work doesn't stop with the church apologizing. And so there was 3 apologies, one from the PCUSA, one from the Presbytery, and one from the local church.
Yeah.
And I will say, I think when it comes to like reaching people in the pews, the local church apology resonated with me the most, because we think that because we're just a little congregation, what can we do in this conversation of reparations? And the apology is, you're not necessarily, when we apologize for things that happen in past history, essentially, because we get this rhetoric and this pushback. Well, I wasn't there. I didn't own slaves. I didn't. We get all that, right? But what you're apologizing on behalf of your ancestors. That's a powerful and supernatural move. And I don't know if y'all read the Bible recently, but it talks about generational blessings and curses all throughout the Old Testament. Right. And so if you really take heed to that, there's a reckoning that we must do to stop the generational curses that have afflicted us. Right. Good. Now, you might not think that your access to education and your access to wealth and your access to all of this is not a curse. And I'm not going to call that a curse, right? You were just born into the right family. But what I am saying is that you have a responsibility to use your access for good, to use your privilege for good in a way that is just and equitable and the right thing to do, which we are all called to do as Christians.
Yeah. Do you think that, because I know that within our denomination, the PCUSA, we are making moves, and there has been overtures that have come nationally about reparations and reconciliation and whatnot, that have been received in mixed ways, obviously, for the reasons you just said, of it's not my fault, I didn't do it, blah, 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 blah. Do you think that this act, this service that took place in Alaska, and all of the thought that went into it, and the prayer that went into it, and the genuineness, not the performativeness of it, do you think that will set sort of the tone for our denomination going forward? Or do you think this will be a one and done kind of situation?
I pray not. And the reason why I don't think it will for this context is because there are so many natives at the table now, right? It was when this started, and this has been a 13-year journey. So I just want to make it clear that you don't get to this moment without a process.
Right.
Right. And and it might feel like a slow process, but I think 13 years to come up with this. But when they were in the talks about 7 years ago of what we can't, our leadership was very clear that we can't have an apology without repair.
Right.
Right. So they knew that 6, 7, 8 years ago when the conversations first started. Right. And so I appreciate those that were in power at the time to ask the indigenous people at the table, what do you need? What do you need to be whole? And let it sit there and said, don't be shy.
Right.
That's what white men need to do. This was a white man in power, right? Said, what do you need to be whole? I need all white men to say that when they come to the table.
And white men stop talking. And then just stop talking and listening.
There's this whole movement now that white men think they're being erased and everything. And please, that's not white men go white men until white, because what happens with whiteness is people who are non-white take on the traits of whiteness. So you might have white men in different bodies, white men in.
Yeah.
And so that's not going away. And for all y'all who love white men, because I love white guys. Yeah. They don't be checking for me, but that's a whole nother story on a whole nother topic. But I'm all over the place.
The white guy at the table said, what do you need? And let it be.
That is using your power and privilege.
Yeah.
Yes.
Besides the apology, what else came out of, what was part of the repair?
What part of the repair is, because, this goes deeper, and I am not that versed well in the history of the mission schools that we held in Alaska and other parts of the country. We have to be honest that although we brought a lot of people to form a relationship with Jesus Christ, I think our mission policies, not just in the PCUSA, Christian mission as a whole, was not done right.
Right.
And one of the ways it was not done right is because we had these boarding schools that really was created to erase culture.
Yeah.
To erase Native speaking people. That one of the people that I interviewed, Dan Morta, I'm still feeling his words when he said English is the language of power, but the Tlingit language is the song of my heart.
Yeah.
And so, me only knowing English, right? I only know English, but I've always, my mother named me Shani, is Swahili. So I always used to say, I'm going to go and learn Swahili one day. That I'm almost 50. That has not happened yet, but it could. But I think I'm going to have some type of supernatural spiritual moment when I'm not going to say if, when I get to the motherland. I know that I don't even know if Swahili is in my bloodline. I don't even know if that's what my people spoke. But I think when I hear it, I think I'm going to feel something.
Yeah. You might.
And I felt that. I mean, the tears. So they're bringing back language restoration. So the money that we gave as a church is going to language preservation and restoration through this nonprofit there in Juneau, and seeing these children speak in their ancestors' native tongue. That was powerful.
Yeah. I imagine it was.
Yeah. So
BT Dubs, you
so
can
yeah.
learn how to speak West Swahili on Duolingo if you would like to. If you want to download
Okay.
Duolingo, Swahili is one of the listed languages, just so you know. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's what I've been up to.
That's awesome.
Speaking of
Oh,
new jobs, Jesse got like
I
their
added
fifth
another one
part-time.
to my resume. Another part-time job. I am
Who
slowly
wants a job?
becoming
I'll
you,
take it.
Johnny. I'm slowly
Uh,
becoming you. I'm slowly becoming you.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Really though, this
I'll
was
take
your
it.
job before you went to PMA. Which they still miss
You're
you.
gonna be amazing. I miss them too, but you're gonna be amazing. You are amazing. It's not you're not going to be. You don't have to wait to be amazing.
Yeah, I think what sealed the deal, and I could be wrong if they're listening, then they can correct me later. But one of the things that sealed the deal is one of the questions they all, a good interview always asks, like, do you have questions for us? And one of my questions for them was, it's very important to me and in my ministry and in my call and vocation to continue to work and align myself with organizations, particularly within the church, that are working to dismantle white supremacy and white supremacy culture, in all aspects of the church and all aspects of their organization. How is Presbyterian Outlook aligning themselves with dismantling
Come
white
on now,
culture?
Jesse. Come on.
And I think there was a pause of like, oh, we've never been asked this question before.
Yeah.
And I said, like part of what I want to do is build relationships, and that means that we need to push boundaries and talk about really difficult things. And Outlook has been doing that for the last several years of pushing boundaries compared to what they've used to do. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if Outlook kind of starts getting into some heavy stuff, even heavier stuff than they have been. I think
I
youth
love
are a
that.
huge part of it, but yeah, I definitely enjoyed the moment of just like pause of, oh, well. And I think that's good. I think that's good with anybody if you're having a conversation with an organization of, this is what I believe and I want to know how you will respond to that.
Yeah.
Whether it's your queerness, whether or not it's your race, whatever it may be, like, especially in the church, how are you, especially now since our denomination, again, we don't want to just talk about our denomination, but we're requiring all churches to have in a statement of, what is it, an anti-racist statement or a statement of something about anti-racism. And how do
I
you do
think
it in a way that's, how do you do that in a way that's not performative?
Exactly. And I think it's important, for any institution that is saying that they're committed to that, to always be asked that question.
Yeah.
Because it holds them accountable.
Absolutely.
Right. And and it's so good to have fresh eyes on a thing, because I preached this sermon of blind spots earlier this year about, like when you're in it, you don't really see all of the areas that all the growing edges that you could possibly be encountering, because you're just in it. You're in it every day. And so sometimes you become immune to what you see or what you don't see.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good question.
I was actually very proud of myself.
Ain't no shame in that. So,
I think
we got to go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think that that is what this about doing this work of anti-racism and dismantling white supremacy. And that's what we'll name it, is dismantling white supremacy. And all of that, which is in that culture. It allows you to see the blind spots of what you've been in, but it also, I like the metaphor of shattering the glass, or like the lens before your eyes of, you think, we both have glasses, like you think that everything is fine, and then you get a scratch in your glasses or it cracks, and all of a sudden that's all you can see. is the lens, that
Yes.
the crack in your lens. And that's what doing this work
Yep.
has done, is it you go about this world thinking that everything's fine and an organization is great, and then you see the world through with this scratch or with this crack, and then all of a sudden you can see all of the cracks that need mended, or at least let's get rid of the glasses and get a whole new pair type of situation. So
Right.
I hope everybody kind of gets a crack in their lens, if that makes sense. As
Yeah.
annoying
I
and as
love that.
uncomfortable as it is, I hope that everybody can get a little scratch. But anyway, you were going to say
That's
something.
good.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to talk about the thing that we're not that comfortable to talk about because we don't know enough.
Oh yeah, we can talk about that thing.
It's all right, so we don't really okay. I'm gonna give y'all a little behind the scenes of how we come up with topics. It is very, very organic. We might have like this whole text exchange, or send each other videos or what have you, and be like, oh, I want to talk about this on the show. Or like, but we don't really have, it's not, for those who think that there is a process, it really is no process. But we are committed to talking about what everybody else is talking about, because we want to be a voice for our constituents. Is that a good way to say that? Like our audience. Like we just want to be able to, it's my okay. I want, one of the things that I write, and I do affirmations every day, and I constantly, I'm always saying I want to be a thought leader. Like I want to be recognized as a thought leader, as I am, professionally or what have you. And my thoughts be all over the place sometimes, but I think I say some good stuff.
I think so. Yes.
If you take out some things, like if you, because I'm all over the place. I went from, so, but I know that everybody's hearts and minds, if you are, if you have any humanity, like everybody is focused on Israel and Palestine.
Yeah.
And while Jesse and I are not experts by any stretch of the imagination on foreign policy, we self-proclaim have a level of common sense,
yes,
that I think is higher than most. Because we call bullshit when we have to. And we really don't have time for like just like, there is a space for indifference, and when I say indifference, like you might like Coke and I like Pepsi, agree to disagree, but one things we're not agreeing to disagreeing on is racism, homophobia, transphobia, sexism, any type of ism that threatens the humanity of a person. We call bullshit on. That's just it. And so, but when we're at the table, we can agree to disagree on anything else. And so I will say this, I have been trying to do my research on this entire conflict, going back to 1948, because here's the thing. There are people that I follow on social media that might already be thought leaders, might not be, I have over 5,000 friends on Facebook. Not necessarily friends, like I've never been over to their house, but I've seen them in social settings. I've appreciated the things that they have said over the years. So I value opinion, and I get all my information from everywhere. And what I started to sense this thing. Oh, so there was like this almost immediate response from those who identify as Christian of going straight to the defense of Israel, right? let's pray for Israel. This is biblical. Da, 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 da,
Yeah.
right? And then I get people who challenge, who are disruptors, who say, and there's a post that says, the Israel of today is not what the Israel of the Old Testament was. And I'm like, what? Whoa. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Right? So we're getting information from all over. But I will say this. I do not, I can't sit here and say I don't condone violence. And I'm going to try my best to explain that. Mm-hmm. When you are on the side of being oppressed and you are tired of being tired.
Yeah.
If the only way you can get free is through violence, then you might have to go and get free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No one will sit there and argue that Nat Turner was wrong.
Right.
Are you going to sit there and say, well, he shouldn't have slaughtered all those people? Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And simultaneously, there is empathy for those lives which have been lost, particularly innocent lives. I feel like
children.
I feel like
babies.
What is missing from this conversation is we've heard a lot of buts, but we haven't heard a lot of ands of what Hamas did to Israel was wrong, and what the violence and the injustice that Palestine has faced by the hands of Israel is also wrong.
Yes.
And Israel has committed their own set of atrocities towards Palestine, and they have also been victims of violence and have had people that have had no sense of what's going on, or even are just victim to the power of that be, have been killed or violated. There's a lot of buts, but not a lot of ands, and that you can hold those things both as truths, that at the end of the day, there is corruption in place that is working against each other to come up with some sense of who's supreme. And at the base of it, they're standing on the shoulders of countless corpses that they are responsible for on both sides of that.
On both sides. Right. Right. I've been following a lot of Jewish people who are saying what Israel did to Palestine is wrong. Yeah. Right. There's a both and in everything, right?
Yeah.
I'm just praying for a ceasefire. Like, I really, really, really need to go back and do my history, because I don't even understand how did you make an agreement where only one part of the agreement was accepted, but 75 years ago, and you think that's okay? Because from what I read, when the UN was like, okay, we're going to divide this area. This is yours, Israel. This is yours, Palestine. And Palestine was like, nah. From day one, they said no.
Yeah.
It's like they got bullied. Jesse forgot we were recording.
Sorry, I'm here. They did. I heard you. I'll just edit me getting up and walking away.
Okay, good.
I'm here.
What were you doing?
Charlie's next to me. So
the baby.
I was putting her passy in her mouth. She's been like mumbling over here, but progressively getting louder and louder in a.
Oh no! It's so she can get as loud as she wants. Well, I think we did. I mean, that's all we can talk about in terms of Israel Palestine. We're
It's not like we
praying
can go
for
to something cheery after talking about Palestine and Israel.
yeah, right. Like but but I don't want to end on that. But okay, what else could we talk about?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Well, we still don't have a Speaker of the House.
We don't have a Speaker of the House. Ugh. Our country's crazy, right, Charlie? We need to make the world
Hi,
better.
Charlie.
We need to make the world better for people like you.
If if you don't if you don't follow us, if you don't really know what we're all about, but we do this work and we have these hard conversations so babies like Charlie can grow up better in a better place.
Amen. And that's how we end the show.
And that's how we end the show.
See you next time.
See you next time, friends. Pause. Time to hear from our sponsors. The Embracing Race podcast is sponsored by the Gen Out Youth Chorus. Gen Out is an outreach ensemble of the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, D.C. Gen Out's mission is to give young LGBTQ plus and allied youth a voice to connect to the community. The ensemble is open to all singers between the ages of 13 and 18. For more information, contact www.gmcw.org. Isn't it our hope that we could come together as a society across the chasm of race and become the beloved community that Dr. King imagined? Interwoven Congregation's mission is to organize and support partnerships between faith communities with different racial compositions in order to foster racial justice and healing. For more information, visit interwovencongregations.org. HOD Records. It is not HOD, but it is HOD, no periods in between. HOD Records is a talent and artist development company that specializes in artistry development and content creation. Serving the DMV and beyond, HOD creates a family-centered management style that promotes a collaborative spirit. Check out HOD Records on all social media platforms and visit hodrecords.media for more information. Thank you all to our sponsors.
The Embracing Race podcast, hosted by elders Shawnee McElwain and Jesse Littlejohn, tackles all topics from pop culture to faith and the intersectionality of white supremacy and racism. Nothing is off limits, as we hope to educate and transform with radical love. For more information, visit us at embracingrace.online or on Instagram at embracing_race_podcast. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, or if you would like to submit a comment or question, please email embracingracepodcast@gmail.com.